Okay. We're good. We're live right now. Peter, how's everyone doing out there? If you can see me, if you can hear me, let me know. Welcome to Duran Live 60. I am here with the host of RT's Crosstalk, Mr. Peter Lavelle in Moscow, still in lockdown. Huh, Peter?
Still in lockdown. It's getting very difficult because the weather is changing, and those of you that have lived or know about life in Russia, particularly in Moscow, we only get like 50 days of sunlight a year, and so when it comes out, you go out. Okay, so people are really antsy. We had a very beautiful morning, and then we had a pretty hard rain. Very humid right now. And this morning, I walked my dogs multiple times just to kind of break up the day. And more people are out. Most people are protecting themselves, which is good. And there's a lot of social distancing. But I live in a sparsely populated apartment complex. So being under lockdown, I have some of the nicest conditions to have to experience that. But, having contact with the outside world, I need more than just the internet, I need to do things. I need a haircut, okay? I just need to do stuff like everybody else.
Yeah, like everybody else. Peter, can you give us, we may have Alexander joining us. We're still waiting on him. He's MIA. But Peter, give us just a little bit of a understanding what's going on in Russia, because when we first started everything, Russia was kind of like the model that everyone was looking at. They closed their borders. They had very little cases. Everyone's like, look at how Russia's doing, how well they're doing. And all of a sudden, I think we're at about 10K a day now, infections, but a very low death rate.
Very low fatality rate. So this is one of the post-mortem of all of this pandemic, I think what's going to surprise a lot of us about the mortality rate in what countries, why, duration is going to be a really long process to understand this. I've been in quarantine, folks, so I'm just going to give you my opinion. It's not an informed opinion. It's only my observations and my hunches. Okay, when Russians are being repatriated, when they're coming back from Europe, primarily Europe, and they closed the border with China, so it's going to be Europe, probably to some degree the U.S., North America. My gut tells me that a lot of people that were told to go quarantine themselves for 14 days, they didn't do it. Okay. They didn't take it seriously, and that allowed the virus a really huge leg up on this, because you can go back and look at our past podcasts. I was pretty confident that they had flattened the curve. Okay, I was really feeling pretty good about it, hoping that we'd get back to work and get back into society. And the last few days have been very troubling. Today is the day that the government is supposed to present to President Putin their plan to start opening up. So today is the 5th, and the goal was to start opening up on the 11th. I find that really hard to believe right now. So one has to wonder, and maybe it's going to be later today, we'll certainly find out later this week, what those plans are and when the starting date will be. I can't imagine it's going to be May 11th. Is it going to be like May 30th? What I'm saying is, what are the controls on public transportation, use of private cars, obviously going into retail outlets. And then cafes and restaurants are way at the other end. So, but I have to tell everyone is that one of the things that I find so terribly painful and makes me really sad is that over the last 10, 12 years, entrepreneurship has really taken off in Russia, really taken off in Moscow. And I know so many young entrepreneurs, and they build their businesses, blood, sweat, and tears. And then to be put on a hiatus like this is just absolutely crushing, because in these small businesses, you need gig flow. You constantly need gig flow. And when you shut it off, what if you're in a business that has to hold inventory? You can't hold inventory because you need the gig flow. And a lot of the business people I know, entrepreneurs, their businesses, their referrals. They help. One guy's good at building floors, the other guy is good with light fixtures, the other guy's electricity guy, and they're constantly working together to churn out gig flow. And all of that comes crushing to an end. I'm with my designer. I've designed a few because I want to help her out. I want her to keep her business going. So I don't really need new furniture, but I can afford it. So I said, we designed 3 new pieces, and it gives her work and give some of her friends work, a guy that works with wood and all that. So just a little bit of increment, helping people to have a little bit of hope until they start unlocking. Okay, so a lot of the problems that you think about in the West it certainly applies here. Maybe one of the differences is there's a lot of state workers here. Okay, there's a lot of people that work for the state, and so they have more protections. All right, because they don't say it in Russian, but it's a black swan event. I mean, it's not the workers' fault they can't work. They're told to stay home. So you can't take their wages from them, or you can't, or maybe there's a small percentage that they have to take out. But I mean, you're going to still at least stay on the payroll. But the people that are not, I mean, that is just a kiss of death. So there's so many small businesses, and this is something I'm constantly asking my friends about. I need different stories, situations from people, because I don't care about the big macro numbers. Of course, that matters, but I mean, economies exist for people, and if people can't work and produce, that's a tragedy. Okay, and there are so many families out there that feel this. Okay, so a lot of people, from what I understand, took the opportunity to go out to their country house, which is called the dacha. And so internet reception is not going to be so good. It's going to be a bit spotty. So they're not going to be as productive, even if they wanted to be. So there's obviously a general slowdown. And, when I walk around the perimeter of my apartment complex, you see, there's a massive highway within eye distance. And usually it's just bumper to bumper. And now it just, cars whisk by. One upside is the air is really super clean. I mean, really, you can see very far right now. At the distance, when I walk my dogs, I see apartment complexes I've never seen before because the air is so clear. Yeah. So that is really interesting. But I think like everyone else, everyone's very tired. There's a lot of fatigue here. And I think I can speak for a lot of people that we want to know what the next step is. I think this indecision, this uncertainty, it adds to the anxiety. What are we doing? What's the next step? Okay, that's what people want to know, I think. So I think we're getting the stirrings of Mr. Mercouris here.
Yeah, he's saying the internet has failed completely. He's trying to get on, fingers crossed. Okay, so let's see if he manages to join us. It looks like the internet in London is crashing. But
yeah, because it's so overloaded. Okay, yeah. I mean, just like, it's really funny because, a lot of people are talking about in memes on Facebook about Netflix and all that. Well, it's the same situation here. People are watching a heck of a lot of Netflix. And I've noticed over the last few weeks is that I plug into one of the more popular ones, and the quality is pretty thin, okay? Because so many people, they're really putting a lot of pressure on it, okay? So Netflix is and plus they have their Russian equivalents, Mediateca and things like that. But there's a lot of people watching serials and movies, okay? Yeah. And for me, I do it too, but I only do it in the evening. I just get so guilty watching something entertainment during the day. I must be reading the American Conservative, Moon of Alabama, the Duran, RT. I have to work. I can't. That's entertainment. It's like a sin doing it during the day. Okay, so I do it in the evening. So I work hard during the day, and then I'll take a few hours off in the evening and watch a few news shows, and then watch maybe a serial or a film. So that's kind of my day in a nutshell.
Try to keep the routine going. All right, so let's see who's joining us, Peter, and from where they are joining us. And once again, thank you, Spartan Warrior Queen, for moderating. Always appreciated, and you always do a great job. Let's see, DB 1968. How you doing, DB 1968? Good to have you here. Hi, Mike. How are you? Loud and clear in Stockton. Hello from Detroit. Zanctus. Hello, Alex and Peter. Lechat. How are you? Lechat. Good to have you here. Alan Watson. Hi, guys. How are you doing, Alan? How are things going? Let's see. Hello from Scotland. Sarah. How you doing, Sarah? Good to have you here. Jeff. Good morning from Wisconsin. Let's see, Free Iran, Sparta Bear Reviews. Hey, Sparta, how are you? Kevin, Napa Valley, California. Wine is still great and enjoyed more than ever. All right, great. Nigel, where's Alexander the Great? Alexander, message now, and he's trying to get on, but no luck. Let's see if he manages to jump on and join us. Phoenix FP40. Let's see, how you doing, Phoenix FP40? Good to have you here. Where else? Rochester, New York, Los Angeles, Missouri, Australia, Prague, Czech Republic, Bronx, Nova Scotia, Canada. Hi from Texas. Is Pete smoking a pipe? He's vaping.
It's
He's
a
vaping. He is vaping. Let's see. Hey, from Romania, Bucharest. How is everything going in Bucharest?
Strawberries and blueberries from Azerbaijan. And my housekeeper is here. She's just finishing up. I'm giving a huge packet. These are expensive, of beautiful strawberries and blueberries with some whipped cream. So trying to get a little bit of cheer here. Okay, there's my cheer.
A little bit of cheer, right? When you said a little bit of cheer, we get Alexander there.
We had this is an internal thing. We had a power failure here. We tripped a circuit, I think. Anyway, here I am.
I've got you on speaker view, Alexander. All right. Well, Alexander, how are you doing in London now that you've joined us? How are things?
Well, it's a beautiful, hot, bright, sunny, lovely day. My wife is out walking the dogs. So I'm all by myself in the house, which is sometimes what happens. We are well. Many of our friends, I'm sorry to say, are not so well. But here we are. We are coping. We're coping well.
Okay. Great to have you on board. Alexander, the Oracle of London. Yes, Brian Johnson. Hey, Brian, how are you?
Yeah.
Let's see where else. Yes, the Oracle is here. He has joined us. Strawberries, yum, says Marie.
Oh, they're great.
Russia has good strawberries, actually, huh? Yeah.
Well, these are up from Azerbaijan. And Azerbaijan is really well known for them. So
for strawberries,
they come in for, I'm not mistaken, for like a 10-day, 2-week period. It's a very, very short window. And then when they come in, people just go bonkers about it. Okay, it's the season, and they should, because they're delicious and they're completely organic. There's no junk in it. There's no fertilizer. It's real. Okay.
All right. Susanna, how are you doing? Susanna, the Duran is a go. Yes, we are a go. All three of us are here. Hello to Alabama. How's everyone doing in Alabama? Debbie Coleman, how are you doing? Debbie, hey, Catherine, how are you? Let's see. All right. Okay. I think we can get going. I don't know how many people are online watching us, but let's get rolling. Hey, New Zealand. How's everyone doing in New Zealand? Guys, before we get to the main story, which is the return of Russiagate, let's talk about the return of Epstein. There is other news outside of the CV, by the way, and a lot of interesting news and a lot of important news that we want to cover. But we have a story about Epstein. And he was connected to Harvard University. He had an office.
In a big way.
In a big way. He had an office. He was getting a salary. He gave a ton of money to Harvard. Peter, what do you make of this revelation?
He had young assistants surrounding him all the time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They were given access. So they were given access to the grounds. That no ordinary mortal gets the right to do that. I mean, this is once used to be very prestigious. I have my doubts these days. Okay, but I mean, he had access, and he was allowed to give other people access. That was the perk of it. The interesting thing of, I've read the reports, what he quote unquote studied, what he was interested in. It didn't make much of an impression on me. Just that he wanted access, okay, and that was a prestige thing for him, an ego thing.
Access to
research facilities, could go to classes, he could go to seminars, presumably meet other academics. I have to assume they all knew who he was because he gave a nice endowment, okay? But the same questions that we've had about him have not changed, have not gone away. He was buying access, but why? Okay, and why was he allowed access? Okay, money doesn't talk, it screams. Bob Dylan is very famous for saying that. But I mean, what was Harvard's fascination with Epstein? I mean, they have a lot of money. It's not like they're beggars, okay? So it seems to me that Harvard didn't vet, what is this gentleman doing here? I guess, his money's green, it's good enough for them, but that shouldn't be good enough for an institution of that pedigree. So the same questions surround, and you were on Crosstalk the time that we talked about this story. So where did he get his money? I mean, nobody asked the question. It's the simplest question. Once you know how he made his money, you know the man. I'm quoting you, okay? I'm quoting you. You said that. So again, the story, it's going to bounce around for a while because the elites don't want, it talked about basic facts. That's what the travesty of his original plea bargain with the first case, complete travesty. And, and then, I mean, weeks before he was going to be arrested, he sold his plane off, which would be very important evidence. How did he know to sell the plane? Who tipped him off? I mean, why would you just suddenly do that? We know, we haven't learned anything more about this, just more questions. But again, here's this presumably a monster. Personally, I believe it. And he's rubbing elbows with the ivory tower at the very summit of academia. Okay, why? Interesting.
Doesn't get higher than Harvard. That's for sure. Larry Summers, I'm sure both you and Alexander, you're aware of Larry Summers.
Well,
I'm not sure if he was
a plague on a completely different house, but anyway.
Yeah. But there's a Harvard connection right there, Alexander, Larry Summers, and Epstein. You have that connection. And Peter mentioned Access, and I just want to say one thing, which will probably get this video demonetized, but Access, was he building a clientele of people to visit his island and to visit his ranch? Was he building a clientele of girls as well?
Lots of questions, Alex. Can I just make a few quick observations? Because, of course, my wife is an academic. There is no more prestigious, powerful, or rich institution in the world of academia than Harvard University. Harvard University is the absolute pinnacle. It is the ne plus ultra. The idea that they don't do vetting, I don't believe that. I think they do incredibly thorough and exhaustive vetting. They knew exactly.
You think so?
Absolutely. They knew exactly who Epstein was. So this begs all kinds of very, very interesting and disturbing questions. And I'm going to say a few further things. Peter asked this very interesting question about how did he make his money. I have actually read in the British media a suggestion that one of the things that Epstein was doing was that he was acting as a conduit for money that was coming out of Russia in the 1990s and elsewhere, and which was being invested in the New York property market. And that was how he made an awful lot of his money.
That's believable too.
And that is completely believable. Who were instrumental in running policy in Russia in the 1990s? Harvard University. And I'm sure Peter remembers very well that there was all sorts of concerns about the fact that some of these people from Harvard who came to Russia managed to make an awful lot of money themselves whilst they were in Russia and have never been called to account.
Well, what they did was very specifically, one of the things that it's alleged is setting up the stock exchanges here. And it is alleged that these Harvard professors, that's what I'm saying, this Harvard professors, I don't know if all of them were from Harvard, but, and that's what they say here, Harvard professors were involved in insider trading, including their members of their family, wives and children. So that's the allegation, and I want to be very clear, it's an allegation, but these people from academia that went to Russia to help Russia really became fabulously rich as the country was in the gutter. And people in this country where I live remember that. And it's like it was yesterday, okay? So yes, the reputation there is quite tarnished in the eyes of people here. And you have people like Larry Summers that has his dirty fingerprints on so many different things. We could do a week-long series of videos on that character.
Was he part of the Obama White House Summers?
He absolutely was. I think he was Treasury Secretary for a time. So, I mean, we're talking about somebody, the absolute heart of the Clinton, well, sorry, the Clinton White House. And he was certainly very, very closely involved with the Obama White House too. Yeah. But I think he actually was Treasury Secretary.
And he will be involved in a Biden White House if there is such one.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, he's also a very, very influential commentator on financial financial matters in places like the Financial Times, where he is always a supporter of more bailouts. But that's in parenthesis. Peter's absolutely right to say these are all allegations. We're just making possible, we're just pointing to possible connections. We don't know what the substance of those connections are, but the idea that Harvard didn't know who Epstein was, I don't believe. I mean, there are certain things, what is it they say in Alice, believing 10 impossible things before breakfast. That is too impossible for me to believe. I mean, that's what I'd say.
I think, just to be fair, you could kind of flip it on its face. I mean, you could I'll say, he's Epstein, he must be somebody, and just don't ask any question. You know what I mean? It was like intentional blinding. I think that is also plausible. But the thing that is really important here is the money. Okay, that's always what greases the gears here. Okay, and he had a lot of money to grease that gear, and towards what end? I mean, he wasn't there to make money. Was he there to make connections? Possibly, but then again, then that means we go down this rabbit hole, which I always want to be very careful about, okay? Because you've already used the word clientele, okay? And right, from what we know and the speculation that's out there, and people that I have a lot of respect for, speculating on this, but the very fact that the story is dead, okay, tells you there's a story out there still, okay? There's still, and how many people believe he actually committed suicide? I think it's hard to convince people of that, okay? That is the official reason. That's what we're told. But it's kind of hard to believe. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I don't know the name of all the bones and all of that, but maximum security, cameras don't work. The guards are irregular. They show up, they fall asleep. I mean, really? I mean, any one of those things separately is believable, but all of them together at the same time? Come on. Or as Joe Biden would say, "Hey, man."
The point about Epstein is that there's been no explanations, proper explanations about anything.
When did that happen? When did that happen, Alexander? Did you remember how many months ago?
Oh, it's months. It was way back in the autumn, but that was the suicide. I mean, but I mean, we got all the other
still
things.
No answers.
There's I mean, all the criminal investigations into all the things that he did, all the people who were involved with him. Where's that? What's happened with that? We hear no word.
Who's that woman? I never been able to.
Ghislaine Maxwell. And by the way, I'm hearing lots of stories about how you pronounce her first name. Well, she's appeared. Apparently, she's even brought a lawsuit apparently against someone, but no sign that any action is being taken against her. No sign.
What did she do with the lawsuit?
I think it was a lawsuit of some description about publicity, not a particularly important one. But the point I'm trying to make is this: she is not apparently under restraint in any shape or form. I don't know whether she's been questioned. I don't know whether anything's been done with her. Lots of other people who were involved. You remember we covered it extensively. We spoke about the various people who visited his island, who visited his house, all those parties, all the things they saw, all the things they're alleged to have been involved
Hillary
in.
Clinton, the Clintons, Bill Gates.
Yeah.
All Alexander, Peter, all the same people.
Yeah.
The globalists, all these people that have been running the world for God knows how many decades and have caused so many problems. These are the same names.
Well,
We're hearing over and over and over.
As we speak right now, you have Roger Stone and Michael Flynn that hardly did anything, and look what they're doing to them. Okay,
exactly.
I mean, this is the perception here.
Yes.
Is that there are people that can do the most outrageous things and insult our sense of morality on top of it, and not only do illegal things, but just this abhorrent moral behavior or lack thereof. And then you have someone like Roger Stone, doors knocking, death is knocking on his door right there. I mean, his crime was he's a friend of Donald Trump. That was his crime. Okay, and Michael Flynn, for someone that I had very strong disagreements with, I mean, he was obviously, undoubtedly set up. Yeah. And now we're at a stage here where we can still we can move away from the edge here, and he can be given his true day in court. And if that doesn't happen, that's just another nail in the coffin. We're a two-tier system of justice here. This is outrageous, particularly with the economic ravaging left in the wake of the pandemic. I mean, some people are, the handouts for the rich and powerful that don't need it. And then helping working families and workers is an afterthought. I mean, do they understand what they're doing? Do they realize the kind of instability that they're allowing to happen? I mean, Nancy Pelosi deigns to come back to Washington, vacate her mansion with her $24,000 refrigerator stuffed with, catered ice cream, and 40%, it's estimated 40% of small and medium-sized businesses will collapse, go away, gone, bye, when this is all said and done. This is a potent mixture for social unrest here. Then we saw, was it in Michigan, the guys with the long guns? No?
Yeah.
I saw that. I found that abhorrent. I didn't think it was not necessary. People like that carrying long guns to a public event showed weakness, not strength. At the same time, I understand their anger. Okay, they're told not to work, but then the state doesn't do anything to help their plight. Okay, but that is a scary example of people doing the right thing in the wrong way. Okay. But that's being, you have the liberal media, they just, their hair's on fire looking at those pictures. I get where they're coming from, but there's a lot of other people that say, damn right. And because the liberal media is so blinded by its own false ideology, they can't see that. And that's the danger that we live in here right now. Sorry, lecture over.
Alexander, you want to wrap it up? You want to say something?
Just one very quick thing. It was based on what Peter was saying, one of the points Peter was making, the comparison between Epstein and Flynn. Now, I have no knowledge of any investigation being carried on in relation to any of the crimes that Epstein committed at all. I see no sign of anybody being questioned, no sign of any bank records being searched, nothing. I hear nothing, I sense nothing, I strongly suspect nothing is happening. These were crimes, alleged crimes, on an absolutely Homeric scale. They were huge. Michael Flynn is investigated and there is no crime at all. I know this is something I really want to say. The only thing he was ultimately convicted for was a process crime into which he was trapped. Compare the energy that is focused on coming after Flynn with a total lack of energy in pursuing Epstein and in the people who were involved in Epstein. And the difference could not be starker. Now, Flynn is obviously a member of the political and military elite of the United States. But of course, what was done to him is being done regularly. And this is a point, by the way, I've had lots of people writing me about this because I said, this is absolutely outrageous. Due process wasn't followed. And I'm told by many people, quite rightly, well, you don't assume that it's followed in many cases or for most people. And this is, for me, a combustible point because Peter was talking about the fact, that people are losing their businesses and they're not getting help. People see bailouts of rich hedge fund managers in New York, but they're not being assisted. People see people in Epstein's circle who are walking away without anything being done to them. There's not been any questions. They're able to move around, continue exactly with the lives they always had. And they ask and they say, why is it these people are treated so differently, are able to do whatever they want? They're able to smash economies, carry out the most appalling crimes. We, who are the people of the United States, the very first words of the Constitution is we the people, and they are completely ignored.
Yeah, and they're shredding the Bill of Rights. They're shredding the Bill of Rights. And
how is that a constitutional state anymore?
Right. And then you have MSNBC cheering. these drones spying on you.
Yeah.
I mean, they're absolutely giddy.
Yeah.
They're giddy about the surveillance state.
Yes.
See, fine. Are these drones necessary? Maybe they are, but can we have a debate about it? Can we have a conversation about how this may be an infraction of our rights? I mean, what I find so apprehensible is that there's no debate about it. They just do it, okay? Because they do it because they have the power, okay? And if you disagree, well, you can be arrested for sitting on a park bench or sitting on a bench in your own garden, okay? There's no
You saw the mayor
conversation
of Chicago,
about
right, Peter?
I'm sorry?
You saw the mayor of Chicago,
Yeah.
her statements, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where she
I mean,
said, you're going to go to jail, but then she goes out and gets a haircut.
Look, you guys, what some of these governors are doing is beyond what Abraham Lincoln did during the Civil War. All right? I mean, and that was the most catastrophic event in American history. He ruled very, with an iron fist, but he was trying to keep the Union together. These governors, they're actually, in my humble opinion, they want this to get worse because it's political. It's all the blue states that are doing this. It's not the red states that are doing this. They want to prolong this. They like their power, and power doesn't like to give it back. All right. So, I mean, that standoff in Michigan, that is such a metaphor for our times right now. Okay. And we have to be very, very careful. I'm very worried because I keep stressing on Crosstalk and in here, we're focused on the pandemic and the personalities around it, Fauci and Trump and all that, which is so exhausting. I'm so tired of it because this pandemic is being flattened and we're going to see the end of it. I don't know when the timeline is, but the catastrophe left in its wake is going to be very difficult to comprehend. And that's where your real problems start. Because you can walk around and you can do what you want to do. And, there's going to be, I think very likely is going to be social unrest in many parts of the US.
Well, indeed, and in Europe too, because of course the point is you can justify lockdowns if they apply to everybody equally. But when some people are in fact benefiting from them and it's not being applied to them and they are being allowed to do what other people are being prosecuted for, then it becomes an extraordinarily
like Fredo over at CNN. He breaks his quarantine to go shopping for real estate in the Hamptons. For those that you don't know, the Hamptons is like the cat's meow of okay, Alex, you know what I mean.
And it's far. No, I was just going to say it's not close to New York. It's not like a 5-minute drive.
No.
But that's where the elite lives. Okay,
yes.
And it's a private club, and you're not invited. Okay, remember.
No.
And then he does that resurfacing, and he films it on CNN and everything, and he records it.
Lazarus coming back from the dead. I mean,
But you see, going back to previous crises in US history, during the Second World War, the sons of the elite people in Washington fought in the war. Everybody was involved. In these situations we see today, it is not like that. And the big difference for me is in the financial world, in the business world, because I see, as I said, hedge funds being bailed out in London. I see the financial people in London being supported with billions of pounds in Britain. But I also have lots of friends, in fact, who have their small businesses and they feel that they're not being supported to anything like the extent that they deserve to be. And that support is winding down with no end in sight. And that, of course, is causing lots of tension. And when this is all over, I think there should be a reckoning. Bear in mind, though, that there was no reckoning after 2008 when we had a financial crisis then. And again, the burden was very unequally shared.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is, and that's a really important reference point, because you could make the argument, not that I would agree with it, but you could make the argument this was a one-off. It was a catastrophe, subprime. It was a huge miscalculation. And you know how the media spun it, okay? Nobody in the end was held responsible for it. But having such a catastrophic crisis follow so quickly after 2008, 2009, this is raising questions in the minds of people. There's a fundamental structural problem right here, okay? And let's remember, the most important member of the electorate across the Western world are young people, okay? And they were notorious non-voters. Well, this crisis can change things, okay? What I find really, really remarkable, that we live in the most populist moment probably since the 1890s and early 20th century. But the elites on, quote unquote, on the left and the right, they have no solutions. They continue to talk about the same nonsense, okay? The same nonsense all the time, okay? And payroll tax. Well, let's lower the payroll tax. It's cancel the payroll tax. What does it mean if you don't have a job? Well, if you don't have a payroll, then how does it help you when they lower the payroll tax? It doesn't make any sense. But the talking heads, they keep saying it over and over again. You know, look at this meat packing situation in the United States. Another monopolistic sector, monopolistic. And look what's happening to farmers. You know, they can't, because because the owners of these monopolistic factories, they wouldn't put in PPE. They demanded people to go to work. They harassed them. And these people are standing at work like this. You have to be careful not to cut the guy next to you, because the hogs are coming like at 1,100 each hour. Get your head around that. Okay, and then, you know, they have this medical catastrophe, which could have been easily avoided. And then you have farmers where they're contracted to bring their livestock to this one specific plant, and they can't accept it. So what does the farmer have to do? They have to euthanize the animal, okay? And now beef prices are skyrocketing, so is pork. This is all could have been avoidable, okay? But what about the farmers? And the farmers have always been, they've been under distress for so very long. And now, after all your hard work, you have to slaughter your own livestock because some monopolistic people that are only looking at the bottom line, care less about your life. This is a populist moment. If leaders can't come and movements can't come, it's going to coalesce beyond them. It's going to go beyond the traditional confines of the political order. And that creates instability. And sometimes it can create even worse, okay? I'm not going to try to be a scaremonger here. But I mean, I give, you know, we can, on this podcast, we've always talked about, you know, GDP and oil price and all that. But I think this meat packing metaphor is so much more real, okay? Because there are so many people involved in it that they didn't do anything wrong. And they're all being punished for it. For shareholders that are probably thousands of miles away, probably even in a foreign country, okay? This is real. Okay, this is happening to real people all over the country. And you know, all they want to do is, you know, hide Joe Biden's, you know, frisky and probably more than that, bad behavior here. I mean, talking about this on the airwaves all the time, when you have that situation going on in Middle America, when you have the food chain, and Alexander McKeris has talked about this, you know, there's food insecurity in the air, okay? And look at all the nonsense they talk on the airwaves day in and day out. It's nauseating.
I mean, just to finish with Epstein, I mean, for me, this story crystallizes the dysfunction between elites and what they can get away with. And, you know, there are no worse crimes, in my opinion, than what are alleged around Epstein. And no investigation. And people who get arrested for sitting on a bench. I mean, that tells you so much about today's world. One point I would make, by the way, which is that I'm absolutely certain that whatever it was Epstein was doing in Harvard, it was not collecting girls. Those are elite students. He wouldn't touch them. The people he has preyed on, if you examine the case carefully, were people from lower class backgrounds. And that's again an example, in my opinion, of how the elite looks after its own, doesn't really care very much about people who are not part of the golden ring that they live inside.
I would say that he was networking with other elites, one to build a clientele of people to go to his island and his ranch, and another set of elites who also have the network and access to those girls.
Absolutely. I mean, the point about Epstein was that his whole system seems to be built on what you could call networking. I mean, it was networking of a particularly corrupt and sinister sort, but that's what it was.
Yeah,
he was no financial genius, so that I can absolutely say.
And people that could be easily preyed upon with extortion.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But Peter, I want to go back to what you were saying about the food supply. And you touched upon Biden. And I think it's really important what you said, in that we have some real world problems, real serious problems going on now. But people are getting sick and tired of all the bullshit that they have been feeding us for the past 3-4 years, longer actually. But let's focus on the past 3 years with Russiagate, which we have been saying from the get-go that it was complete bullshit. It was a complete hoax. But Peter, I want to also focus on Biden, because two things came to mind that I jotted down as you were speaking of all the BS that they're feeding us, which is just pisses me off so much. I'm sick and tired of the fake news and the crap that they feed us. And you could even tie this into the CV and what's going on there with all the bullshit they're feeding us there on various levels. But the first one is the Me Too movement, which is now officially dead. Believe all women. Believe all women. The second one, which no one talks about, which is related to Flynn and Russiagate, Alexander, Peter, is thank you for your service. How many times have you heard that in the United States whenever they have a military person who comes on and, you know, talks to, say, Fox News or MSNBC or is on a TV show, whatever it is? Oh, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. And meanwhile, they're going after Flynn, and they're trashing Flynn, a 3-star general. These people, they just destroy and trash everything, and they bullshit us on every single level. And the media just plays into it, and they're absolute hypocrites. Peter, what do you think of that?
It's really
they frame everything and then trash everything.
Yeah, and then they're never held accountable for what they said or what they wrote. I mean, I don't really, was it in I'll probably get the year wrong, with 2019 or 2018, you know, New York Times gets Pulitzer Prize for Russiagate, okay? And a lot of it focused on Flynn. It was absolutely false. Completely false, okay? Do the awards go back? Do they write a retraction? You know, think of all of those clips you can find them, you know, all of those clips calling Flynn a Russian agent, a Russian spy in the Trump White House. They don't say alleged. It is believed. They don't qualify. They just say it, okay? And based on what evidence? The insurance policy from a disgraced FBI agent, Peter Strzok, in his relationship with his girlfriend, Lisa Page. Okay, my goodness. I mean, thank you for your service. I mean, that's a really raw point with me. I'm not really sure. I'm glad. I'm not really happy you bring it up, because I just think of, you know, what about all the people that served and didn't come home?
I'm talking the marketing aspect of it, just the marketing aspect of it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of veterans voted, and their families voted for Trump because they're sick and tired of these wars. You know, I would like to look at those Bronze Star and Gold Star mothers and say, I wish that your son did not have to serve, okay? Because then your son would be with you right now. And it all was for nothing. It was for greed and hubris based on lies. You know, and look at Tulsi Gabbard, you know, they pounded her until she supported Joe. And then thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Get on the knee, take the knee, kiss the ring, okay? Get in line, okay? Don't argue with us. And you get nothing for endorsement, nothing. They spit on you afterwards. You're gone. Okay.
Excellent point with Tulsi. Point with Tulsi.
No, but I mean, all of them do this. Okay. And then have the Pete Buttigieg, and he's just waiting for what's up, for a message, like, oh, what am I going to get from Joe? What is Joe going to give me? Okay. I mean, there's always horse trading here, but there has to be a debate. I mean, this Me Too movement, unfortunately, this will sound really bizarre to you, but I'm really glad that Tara Reid has come up. I think it took a lot of courage. I mean, it has nothing to do with the Blasey Ford case. I mean, there's just no comparison at all. But they destroy her. Feminists destroy her, okay? So it's shown for a fraud. And actually, I'm glad, because I'm sick and tired of it, and I'm not going to play by their rules. No way You submit to their rules, they crush you, okay? Now they're just a bunch of hypocrites, okay? Where are they now, okay? I believe Joe. Can you imagine how twisted that is? How twisted that is from Kavanaugh now? It's not believe all women, I believe Joe. That shows, this is psychotic, okay? This is psychotic.
Due process, Alexander. Due
Well,
process.
due
Now it's all
process.
about due process.
I'm glad you brought up. I'm glad you brought up due process, because coming back to what Peter said about all the things that were said, the horrible things that were said about Flynn, they weren't just said by the media. They weren't just said by the commentators. They were said by the judge in his case. The judge pointed to the American flag in the courtroom and said to Flynn, "You have betrayed it. You are a traitor. You've betrayed the flag of the United States." I mean, that to a general, a serving soldier who has fought for the United States, or at least has served for the United States on the field of battle. Is that judge going to turn around and admit that it was all wrong? That all those things were wrong? What is that judge now going to do as all this information comes out?
The very interesting thing in all of this, and Alex Christopher and I talked about this numerous times during the Kavanaugh hearings, that if it weren't for Fox News, this would have all just gone as to plan, okay? If it wasn't for Fox News, I mean, and the tragedy we have right now, I think it's very interesting, and it was something we all should be aware of, is that if an issue is instantly made into a partisan issue, okay, then it allows people like us to take the lane in the middle, okay? And that allows for real discussion and exchange of ideas here, because obviously most people at Fox are gonna run with this against Joe Biden and not for the alleged victim, okay? That's the way it works, okay? But if there had been a real investigation, a bona fide investigation, where people came forth and presented evidence, then we wouldn't have to go through this circus, okay? It's because partisans make it partisan. And that makes it very difficult for us to get to the truth, because it's all these finger pointing. And I'm not interested. I don't think any of us here are interested in that. I want to know, is this a credible claim? Because I was told, believe women. Okay, so let's go down the path, all right? No. The interesting thing is here, too, I'll end on this minor point here. Look at Blasey Ford. She's a member of the elite, managerial, professorial. She's part of their pedigree. She must be believed because of her attributes, okay? And then look at Tara Reid. Well, she's struggling financially. Who knows, maybe as a direct result of the allegations that she experienced in 1993 with Joe Biden in his office. We don't know, it's possible, okay? But she's not part of their pedigree, okay? There's a class issue in this here. Look at all of the accusers of Bill Clinton, okay? These are the same girls. What was his name? What was Clinton's political advisor, the bald guy?
It'll come to people in the live stream in the chat. They'll tell us who the bald guy. Yeah, Clinton's advisor.
I mean, these women that accused Bill Clinton, you know what his reaction was, and the media loved it. You never know what you'll get when you drag a $100 bill through a trailer park. Okay, see, that's a class issue. Okay, that's class. But Blasey Ford, well, she went on when she did a fund me. She went, she got like $2 million. I mean, the hypocrisy is at so many different points. It's so hard to comprehend. I mean, all it does is it makes me feel disgusted by all of this. And they're all pathological liars. Why? Because they want access. They want to be close to power. They like their gig flow. Okay, the status quo works for them. Joe Biden, nothing will fundamental change. Joe, most people in the country want fundamental change. Look at the clowns that rule us, look at the clowns in the media, and look what has happened to the economy. And nothing is going to fundamentally change. The man doesn't have his marbles.
James Carville, by the way, guys. Thanks everybody on the chat. Thank you. Alexander.
Just to come back to the points that you were making about due process, let's talk about due process with Biden. Who was it who said you believe women? Joe Biden said you believe women. It was actually you. There's quotes during the Kavanaugh affair. Joe Biden said you believe women. Who was it who said, who were the people who were saying at that time the burden of proof, innocent before, innocent until proved guilty, that doesn't apply in these situations. It's only a courtroom thing. The Democrats said it. The Democrats were saying it all the time. Who were saying that you don't really need corroboration because the mere words of the victim is enough. And I had all kinds of discussions. I can remember I had a discussion with a US attorney at the time who was arguing to me in all seriousness that Dr. Ford's unsupported word was enough to bring a prosecution. We don't just have with Tara Reid an unsupported word. We have corroboration. We have corroboration in what was said by her mother to Larry King, of which there is a recording, and all sorts of witnesses have come forward and have confirmed that she complained about what, at the time, about things she said. So we have, exactly. So I cannot see how all the arguments that were made against Kavanaugh do not apply with multiple force in the case of Biden and Tara Reid. I mean, it seems to me once again, one rule is being applied to one woman and one person, a man who is a Republican and a conservative, and a woman who is a liberal, and as Peter said, an elite person. And a completely different rule is being applied towards a man who is a Democrat and a liberal, and to his accuser, who is apparently not of the same class that Dr. Ford is. And that's the reality of it. I mean, we have two completely different sets of rules for completely different sets of people. And I think most people in the United States at some level are aware of this. I mean, I think even in a very polarized, very partisan society, which is what the United States has become, people are able to see through all of this perfectly well. That's what I think.
I think I have to say publicly, because it's been on my conscience, Mika Brzezinski did a decent job, okay?
Yeah.
Not a great job, but she did a decent job, okay? I would have gone deeper and harder, but I give her credit for at least talking about it. So I have to keep to my own standards here.
And I'm glad you mentioned this, Peter, because of course the other thing is this: compare Kavanaugh's straightforward and categorical denials, supported by his family, with Biden's mumbling and evasions.
Well,
and if you
6 FBI investigations of Kavanaugh.
Well, six. But I mean, because so much was made at the time, if you remember, about Kavanaugh being people were going after Kavanaugh based upon what they thought his demeanor was and the way he spoke and all those sort of things. Compare that with Biden. If you're going to use demeanor as an indicator of guilt, I don't think there's any contest. And of course, we now have this absurd story about, look to the Senate when he knows perfectly well that the Senate can't confirm this, but don't look at my own papers in Delaware, where he probably can have them looked at. So,
well, the interesting thing, there have been reports that people associated with the DNC, associated with Joe Biden, associated with his campaign, have already been to the University of Delaware and already looked at those papers. I wonder why. This is all documented. Why won't the University of Delaware do it? Because all of the trustees are friends of Joe, and Joe has funneled money to them through donors. So don't expect much help from them, all right? So look, I don't know what happened. I don't. And we probably will never know what happened, but we have to follow up on this, okay? I don't like these topics. I prefer to stay in a different lane. Just not my thing, okay? But you have to be consistent here. It seems to me, I would imagine, maybe I'm wrong, but I would imagine that this is all electronic now. All of these papers. So I mean, search Tara Reid, enter. I'm not really sure why this is so difficult, though. The New York Times suggested that the DNC do its own investigation. I mean, these people, they have no self-reflection. They have no self-awareness of how stupid they are, how insulting they are to common sense, okay? What should be done, have this done very quickly and very efficiently. I don't know the mechanism, but I don't think, it seems to me inconceivable. You can't go and have a team of people go in there, scour and say, this is what we found with her name. That's it. We don't judge. We just say, this is it. These are the documents with their names, okay? And then you move forward with it, okay? I don't like these topics, all right? But you know, the liberal media, the more they ignore to try to manipulate it, they make it a topic.
Absolutely.
It's their fault.
Absolutely.
It's like they made Donald Trump. They made him. They elected him by the way they treated him.
Exactly.
And they're doing it again. Again, these people, you don't have to be smart to be in media. All you need to do is know how to lick which pair of boots. Okay, that's how you get ahead. All right.
Peter, I completely agree. I mean, I dislike these topics. I want to make it very clear that I don't believe people should simply be punished or their reputations destroyed upon what are at the moment still only allegations. It's allegations against Kavanaugh, it's allegations against Biden. But there is a difference. Biden was one of those people who, in the Kavanaugh case, made allegations and insisted upon, wanted Kavanaugh's destruction. And compare what the allegations are. The allegations against Kavanaugh related to events which were supposed to have happened, I stress, supposed to have happened when he was a drunken student at university. The allegations against Biden, high school, you're absolutely high school student. The allegations about Biden relate to a time when he was a United States senator, one of the most powerful men in the United States. And of course, the actual detail of those allegations, the ones against Biden, are far more serious because they show degree of intention and calculation, which you can't really attribute to a school student. I don't want to I'm not minimizing what Kavanaugh is alleged to have done, but I think there is a difference.
Well, I mean, it's Tara worked in his office. We know that.
Yeah.
We know that she was dismissed. We know that. We know that she talked to her mother. That's knowable. We know that her brother knew it. And this is not like 6 months ago. This is when it happened or around the time that it happened, okay? So Tara Reid is what is she, kind of mole that sits out for 30, 40 years to go out and then attack the Democratic nominee? That's ridiculous on its face, okay?
Well, it's not true.
I want to say, we need to really, we don't know what happened, and we probably never will know what happened. We're no witnesses, okay? But it's compared to Blasey Ford and Tara Reid, I mean, there's something you can grab onto there, okay? Because it was at the time. Nobody, Blasey Ford, something probably happened to her, okay? I don't want to go there, but you don't know the place, you don't know the year, nobody corroborates it. Tara Reid, there's a lot of people that are saying, yeah, she told me that. Yeah. He's a lifelong Democrat. Okay.
It's real simple. Real simple. Tara Reid says that she filed a complaint. The complaint is sitting at the University of Delaware. If Biden was 100% positive that he did nothing wrong, he would just say, go to the University of Delaware and look at the files. Instead, here we are, we're all talking about this. They're stonewalling everything. The New York Times is writing stupid articles about the DNC investigating this. The DNC, the same DNC that concocted the whole Russiagate hoax, the same DNC, Donna Brazil and Wasserman Schultz and all these,
from Bernie.
Right, all these characters, for them to investigate this, when all Biden has to do is just say, look, go to the archives, search for Tara Reid's name. I'm telling you, I'm 100% innocent. It's that simple.
Absolutely.
But now you have the University of Delaware. They're actually saying that we won't get to these files until 2040 or 2042. That's their new date of when they can open up these files.
I understood there was a 1,700 boxes.
Yeah.
You're telling me it's going to take 20 years to get through 1,700 boxes?
1 week. 1 week. One
Absolutely.
week, they'll look for, you don't have to release any conversations like Biden was saying. I have conversations with Putin and have all these
could
things.
do it in a week.
Yeah. You don't need to release any.
It wouldn't take a week, it would take a day, because of course those boxes will, the files in those boxes will have been dated and timed, and you only really need to look at a particularly short period of time frame, and you'd find it very fast, one way or the other.
What I'm saying is, I think everyone in the world, and we can tie it into CV, and we're going to tie it into Flynn now, is sick of the BS. The Me Too thing, we've been talking about this forever. That whole Me Too hashtag was concocted in some New York or LA PR firm. It was concocted there. The whole thank you for your service thing, that was concocted as well by a marketing firm. The whole hashtag social distancing and alone together, these are concocted by marketing agencies so that they can push us in a certain direction. Now you have the whole Flynn thing, and you have the notes. We finally have the notes after 3 years. We have handwritten notes.
More coming.
Show exactly what the FBI was doing, exactly what they were thinking of. And what is the media doing, Alexander?
Nothing.
What is the media doing?
Well,
well, this is routine stuff by the FBI. This is routine behavior.
But this goes back to my point, is that Fox obviously is running with it, as they should, okay? But it looks partisan that way. That's like let CNN and MSNBC off the hook. Say, oh, that's just what Fox does. So they're conspiracy TV. You see what I'm saying here?
Right, go on.
No, but what I'm just saying is that these people that are behind this coup d'état, they're the ones that are framing it all the time. They framed the discussion on Tara Reid. Right. They framed the discussion on Michael Flynn. Okay, my point is, doing these podcasts, doing my program Crosstalk, is that I don't follow your framing of these things. I have a different opinion. I will approach it from a different trajectory, okay? But this is the Flynn story, the Roger Stone story, the Julian Assange story. They always frame the conversation, which is self-referential. They always win, okay? That's why you have to be very careful. And Alex, you're absolutely right. You know, this is PR stuff, you know. What was it? Alone together. Isn't that cute? But what does that mean? Okay, that doesn't mean anything. Okay.
Social distancing.
I'm still alone.
Social distancing. What is social distancing? It's crazy. And I mean, going back to MSNBC, Alexander, what Peter was saying about MSNBC, yesterday they finally got rid of, I think it was Lack or Oppenheimer.
Andy
Lack.
Hallelujah.
The guy that was propping up who? Weinstein for so many years.
Oppenheimer is still there.
I wonder what golden parachute Lack got when they got rid of him. I wonder.
Absolutely.
Anyway, Alexander, on all the things I said, what Peter said, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's the key point to say is, once again, completely a thing like Me Too. It's now exposed as a political weapon. It was being used as part of a weapon in a culture war. Those who used it didn't believe it. They didn't mean it seriously. It was never intended to apply to them. Once again, it's one rule for them, another rule for us. One rule for Kavanaugh, another rule for Biden. One rule for the people who were around Epstein, another rule for everyone else. So that's the kind of world that America is becoming. And I think that's a very disturbing thing. If I was an American, I would be very, very angry about it. And I am not somebody at all who is going to incite anybody to go and do anything, you know, in terms of revolution or violence or anything of that kind. But I agree with Peter. I think America is going into a place where unrest is a real possibility.
I want to go back to the Michigan with the long guns, okay? I mean, I've gotten a lot of flack from people. I'm not a really big gun guy. I just never have been. But I do believe in the Second Amendment. If you want to get rid of the Second Amendment, let's have a debate. Let's have a vote. Let's decide. You don't like Confederate monuments. It's a community issue. Communities need to get together, and you have to decide what you want to do, okay? Because it's your issue, okay? Yeah. But these long guns that I saw, it just showed the helplessness of so many people. It wasn't just show of force. It was the exact opposite. is that they feel that they have no other recourse to kind of show that we can defend her. I mean, this is the equivalent of a French worker putting on a yellow vest, okay? Americans pull out long guns, okay?
Yes.
But it shows a sense of powerlessness and frustration and anger with the powers that be. I mean, if you can't buy seeds to plant flowers and vegetables in your own garden, we're in a bad place. We're really in a bad place. When the government says you can buy this, but you can't buy that, you can't buy toys for your children. What is that all about? It's your money. You know, this is bad. And if the more you get into the center of the country, there really is something to this rugged individualism. It has its positive points, it has its downsides too. Okay. But I grew up in the Midwest. These people are not racist, they're not crazy, they're actually very pragmatic people. They're very pragmatic. They don't even talk very much, okay? They just see the injustice that's going on around them, and they hear the airwaves is feeding them garbage all the time, telling them they're rubes and proles and idiots and how many teeth they don't have. You know, this is something very, very dangerous. The interesting thing is they've been able to freeze out Trump for the most part. And this is why they're doing it. Because Trump really isn't a president. He's just a candidate. He's always been a candidate. He's candidate in 2015, candidate after he was inaugurated, and he's a candidate right now. He's not a man of a lot of bold, deep ideas. He's about the politics of movement. And it's very effective because he may not be aware of how much of a populist he really is. He sees himself as an obstructionist and an outsider. Okay, fine. That sells, okay? But his populist streak, I think he has good instincts there. He's been shut out into the cold because of the pandemic. And his political rivals, and there are legion, many of them, particularly in the media, are glorifying in this because it's either the daily briefing or it's Twitter. But really what got him elected was the stadiums, okay? And it was the rallies and getting them emotionally involved in the candidate, okay? See, this was a flaw because Trump wants you to be involved with him as a person, okay? Not as a policymaker. And when you can't exude your personality on the same scale that you did during the last campaign, you are diminished, and he's frustrated by that. And his enemies, particularly in the media, see it, and they're going for blood, okay? So the lockdown, unlockdown, getting out of lockdown, you know, that's what everybody's talking about. And the underlying issue is who's going to benefit, not like workers. No, who cares about them, okay? And our families or small businesses, it's all a political calculation for power. And that is so destructive. And I go full circle, that brings out the long guns. If you think that way, again, be careful on how everyone frames the conversation. Those guys with the long guns, they're framing it in a very different way. You can agree or disagree with them, fine, but they are framing it in a different way, and you have to take it seriously. Okay, not all this fake debate, fake talking points all of the time. That is white noise for more and more people, and particularly if we're without a job. Go ahead, Alex.
Alexander, one of the things that I've always liked about Trump is that, and I thought he was always effective at, was he was able to frame the controversy. He was able to frame debate. He was able to frame the news. So no matter, you know, how much they would go after him, they were playing on Trump's terms. That's, you know, he'd get on Twitter and he'd say something, then the media will go crazy. And, you know, that was the news story for the next 2-3 weeks. And then came this pandemic, which was out of everyone's control, you could say. Trump couldn't frame it. No one could frame it. No. And it kind of took a life on its own. Yeah. What I think Trump should do, what I think is, okay, you have the pandemic, you're gonna have to deal with it, and the lockdown, you're gonna have to open up. That's fine. But I think an effective strategy for Trump, and I'd like your opinion on this, would be pardon Flynn, pardon Stone, get back on Russiagate, start tweeting about it. Now the whole thing has been exposed and is a complete hoax, and start to reframe discussion that's going on in the news. Start to reframe the narrative that, you know, yes, you can devote time to the lockdown, but I'm going to start forcing the press and the media to devote time to the hoax that was Russiagate in Ukraine that they went after me for 3.5 years. In other words, use a little bit of misdirection in your favor this time. What do you think of that?
I agree. I think that it is very important, actually, that Trump refocuses on Russiagate, because I'm going to say something. I think Russiagate is actually the single biggest story. I think the pandemic is terrible. I don't want to give an impression that I don't minimize its importance at all. But ultimately, Russiagate is about how the United States is governed, about whether or not the US government is even working anymore as it should be working, about whether the United States can call itself any kind of democracy. And Donald Trump, who was elected by the people, needs to reframe the debate around that, because it is something that directly concerns, ultimately, it affects ordinary people. Now, one can't expect people to get into the details of perhaps what McCabe said to Strzok and all that. I mean, that's...
But if he pardons him, that...
Wait. I want to talk about the pardoning, because there's something I wanted to say about this. Now, but I think that he does need to focus on Flynn and on Russiagate generally. Now, pardoning Flynn, I'm going to just say something about this. I am not sure quite what tactic I would take about this. And I think that the case, if you pardon Flynn, it's still open for people to say that he has not been exonerated, because a pardon is in a way an admission that some sort of crime by Flynn was committed. But a perhaps more effective way would be either to get the court, and you have a very difficult judge, to basically allow Flynn to change his plea and then dismiss the case, or to get this Justice Department to come along to the court and say, this case was brought entirely in bad faith, and we are therefore asking that the plea be changed and that Flynn be exonerated. It's a route to the same objective, but the advantage of doing that is that it completely exonerates Flynn. He comes out of it an innocent man. And I think what you then do, and what I can absolutely guarantee to you, will infuriate the entire political elite, is you appoint Flynn to a post within the administration. You give him a job again. And that is the way, if you like. You come along and you say, this is the man, he was martyred, he was destroyed. I'm bringing him back. He is a serving soldier. He is completely innocent. He wants to serve his country. I'm going to give him an opportunity.
Alex, I know you're not an attorney, in a legal sense, attorney in the United States. But let's say this is thrown out, okay? Thrown out, and if it's thrown out, you don't have to pardon him. But I mean, does he have legal recourse? Because this whole case was in bad faith. I mean, can he turn around and sue the pants?
Of course he can. Of course he can. He's the poor man is almost bankrupt. He's had to spend vast amounts of legal fees. He was shafted by his own law firm. He was trapped by the FBI. Of course he can bring actions against all of these people. He could in any jurisdiction. He could do that in the United States. He could do that in Britain. He could do that in any kind of legal jurisdiction where the system of law actually works. And he should. And Trump should back him to the hilt when he does it, and make it a big issue in the election, and put it before the American people and say to the American people, this is what happened. These were the things that were done to this innocent man whose only real crime was that he worked with me. And they wanted to come after him because they didn't want me, the president you elected, to hold office in the United States.
Yes, and they threatened his son. If he didn't
they threatened his son, and they did terrible things, and he was pressured, as we know, strong-armed by his own lawyers, one who have, it turns out, connections with the Democrats. It's just
You know, I think that's a very interesting strategy.
Yeah.
Because watching the China story develop, at this point in time, I see it's a lose-lose for Republicans and Democrats, because both of them are so much in bed with China. Is that, you know, I think that, you know, when I've seen these ads on both sides, and they cancel each other out, in my mind, okay? Because no one can come out and say they have clean hands, okay? And not at all, okay? Because the Biden people are going to be able to look at all of these GOP figures that, you know, are hip deep in China connections and business and stuff like that. No one has clean hands here. I think Alexander Makiris brings up a very interesting thing. I mean, other than the pandemic, which you can't get too far away from that, because that is a health issue that affects everyone, okay? But that plays both ways as well. But with this Flynn thing, it personalizes it, okay? And I think a lot of people like to think that Trump is a loyal person to his friends. I don't know if that's true or not, but they like the perception that he is loyal to his friends. And this guy has been shafted. I mean, they just beyond a shadow of a doubt, this guy has been shafted. And it's a good human interest story that people can comprehend, particularly a 33-year veteran of the military, which has residence in the red states, big time, okay? So it's just interesting. It's just that I'm kind of curious, because it seems to me that Trump is off balance right now, and he can't seem to find his bearings. Because I've seen a lot of his surrogates coming out, and it's not a strong message, okay? They need to really firm it up, because the fact of the matter is, Joe can just stay in the basement. I mean, that's his winning strategy. I mean, seriously. I mean, this is the most atrocious democratic process probably since the end of radical Reconstruction and at the end of after the Civil War in America, where it was basically, you know, the democracy was dissolved and it was just backroom negotiations, okay? And this is this, you know, first of all, you have the Democratic primary canceled. You don't even have a candidate that has a plurality of delegates. You have the New York primary canceled. I mean, talk about voter suppression, which they always accuse the Republicans of. That's voter suppression on a scale unheard of, okay? And of course, Bernie doesn't push back. Okay, well, that's probably goes figure. But I mean, the thing is that this is the most bizarre campaign in American history. It is the most bizarre, because the presumptive nominee of one party is probably being spoon-fed Jell-O in his basement. Okay, and the media just carries on. You know, we know Joe. Yeah, we know who Joe is. He sniffs hair, he touches, and all that weird stuff. Okay, we know him. Okay, we'd like to know everything about him. Okay, so. Bizarre set of circumstances going on right now. The thing is that I'll be watching to see what the Trump people in their campaign, what their trajectory is going to be, because it seems a bit muddled to me at this point.
It is indeed. Donald Trump is at his most formidable, in my experience, on the rebound. You attack him, and then he comes roaring back. I mean, it's quite remarkable in some ways that he does this all the time. I mean, he's attacked in ways which would absolutely smash most people, but he seems to get more strength the more attacks come at him. And actually, I'm going to say this, I think one of the problems at the moment he's having in sorting out how to deal with Russiagate is that he's so accustomed to working in Russiagate with himself on the defensive, that he hasn't yet thought through how he's going to go on the attack. He needs to attack because Russiagate is an open goal for him now. I mean, we're seeing all the pieces falling into place. We've got all kinds of information coming up from Christopher Steele at his trial about how he was incredibly close to the Clintons, how he was talking to people like Stowe Talbot, how he was involved with, you name it, in the Democratic Party. They had contacts with Steele, so he has got all that business. He's got the Flynn business in front of him. He needs to start putting it all together, and he also, I think, needs to go after Biden on the terror business.
And he needs to find the FBI director.
Not exactly.
He needs
to do that. Yeah.
And what you said, Alexander, to me, that's why I was saying to pardon Flynn or Stone. For me, all that Trump needs to do is to just throw some red meat
Yes.
the media and the Democrats, so
Yes.
they can start attacking him. He just needs to egg them on.
Yes.
And to me, the best way to egg them on is to just make a bold action,
Yes.
a bold statement. I'm not saying that strategically pardoning Flynn or Stone may be the right thing to do on a moral level, or the fact that it won't prove Flynn's innocence. But on a political level, all Trump would have to do is pardon Flynn or Stone, send out a tweet and say, as of today, I am pardoning Roger Stone.
Well,
He's an innocent man.
And he would not lose. He would not lose one supporter.
Oh, well, no,
Exactly.
he would gain
And
them.
then the media and the Dems would just pile on him, and then he can start, to rebut against their attacks.
The point I was simply making is this: because Flynn is innocent, because as far as I'm concerned, Flynn is innocent, completely innocent, it might be more effective politically to establish that. With Stone, who I think is a different case, I would pardon Stone without any doubt or hesitation whatsoever. I think that prosecution was vindictive and disproportionate and malicious, and also brought in bad faith against an elderly man who blags a bit, as people do, and absolutely does not deserve to have armed FBI agents turning up early in the morning at his door, hauling him off, and then dragging him through a relentless prosecution process. No, I definitely think he should pardon Stone. I think there are lots of people he could pardon, but certainly I would start with Stone. If the judge refuses to reopen the case against Flynn, if the Justice Department drags its heels, and the Justice Department is clearly a complicated institution. Even now, Barr, the Attorney General, is clearly not in full charge of it. If the Justice Department drags its heels, then of course he should also pardon Flynn. All I am saying is we are probably only about a week away from some kind of outcome on the Flynn case. And maybe it might just be an idea to wait that week and see what happens. And if all the pieces fall into place, that will potentially leave Trump in an even stronger position than he would be politically if he simply pardoned Flynn. But with Stone, no doubt at all. And can I say, I think that not only would Trump lose no supporters if he pardoned Stone, I think he would win supporters, because I do believe that people have an innate sense of justice, and they know perfectly well that Stone was not prosecuted because he did anything. He was involved in some sinister crime. Again, what sinister crime? There was no conspiracy. There was no collusion. We know that. So why go after this old man now? That is ridiculous. Trump will win support if he does that. And if the media are crazy enough to go after him because he does it, which they will, then so much the better. He rounds on them, goes on the rebound, which is exactly the point we were making before.
Yeah, I mean, if I was Trump, I would just go scorched earth, because the Democrats are ready to crash the entire U.S. economy in order to take out Trump. So if I was Trump, I would do exactly what you said, Alexander. Pardon Stone, send out a bunch of tweets about him, get the media going crazy. I would even take it further. I would pardon Assange. I'd find a way to get Assange out of prison, make the media go absolutely insane. Then I would send some tweets about crooked Hillary. I'd send some tweets about the Obama White House and their involvement in the entire Russiagate hoax. I would just bring it all up and just get the media going nuts and the Democrats going nuts. Change the narrative. What do you think, Peter? Final words. Let's get to some super chats.
Exactly, and that's what I've been saying repeatedly here, is that you have to craft the message yourself. You have to craft the narrative. I don't think he would go as far as going out on the limb for Julian Assange. I wish he would.
I wish he would too, but I'm afraid he won't.
Yeah, but I do think
scorched earth.
And I think firing Christopher Wray, throw that into the mix too. Okay, I mean, he's a useless bag of potatoes there. I mean, I don't know what the hell he's doing. Okay, he's not doing anything that what he should be doing. Yeah, I mean, I think it's what you need to do is you have to recast everything, because he's mired in all of this, and Trump deserves criticism in handling his presentation, his rhetorical reaction to the pandemic. It's not his area, okay? He's like with cement, and trucks and invoices. I mean, he's a builder, okay? He's not a scientist. And he showed that over and over again. And those were unforced errors, in my opinion. He should have just let other people speak, okay? He didn't say drink Clorox, okay? He didn't, I watched it, okay? But he opens himself up to that, okay? I think that he needs to be able to put the pandemic in a box, okay? And deal with it that way. What he needs to do, with the things that you've already mentioned, but I think are quite brilliant, I think he needs to just go full animal on infrastructure, full animal, okay? I mean, we need to put people to work. And if you want to break the supply chains to China, good luck, but why don't you create your own supply lines at home? Now that's going to resonate with a lot of people. I mean, printing money like there's no tomorrow, why don't you just do infrastructure? I mean, you know what I mean?
Which is of course
gone. We don't have money for it. We don't have, well, of course, you have plenty of money for anything you want. That's been proven over the last few weeks. Yes. So I think changing the narrative, throw this red meat at the liberals and in the media, let them go nuts, okay? Then just we need to open and rebuild. Open and rebuild, because he has to let go of the markets are doing great. You can't do that anymore. Yes. That was his card. That's a card he was going to play over and over and over again. Yes. The card's been played. You can't play it, okay? Yes. Now we have to be the president of recovery, okay? And we're gonna get down to the bottom of this. Why did this happen? Why weren't we prepared? And you can throw Biden into that. I mean, he was vice president for 8 years, okay? Mm-hmm. I mean, so the thing is that he needs to get out of this muddle. Okay, and I think that I hope somebody on his campaign is watching this, because we've got some great ideas out there to shake up the narrative.
An infrastructure program is a brilliant idea, and it's of course what he campaigned on in 2016 and what he promised to do. And of course he ran into all kinds of problems because the Congress were all so difficult, but he could bring that all out again. Of course he can. And he can. Exactly, and he's in a much stronger position with his party now than he was when he was first elected. And of course, with the health crisis, you can also point out, I think perfectly validly, that many of the problems people are talking about, the dysfunctional health system. Who created the dysfunctional health system? It wasn't him. He wanted to change it. He wasn't able to change it. It was Obama's health system that is breaking and failing at the moment. He's got lots of things to say. He's got everything to play for. He's got to start playing. He's shown in the past that he can. I think probably, my guess is, he will find his way. He always does. With Trump, sometimes you go through these periods of uncertainty. And then, as I said, he gets attacked and he gets his energy. He thrives on it.
It's very interesting.
And then he drives back.
This Dr. Fauci character and all that is so atypical of Trump. There's only one person in the room when he is in the room. And so for the last few weeks, he's had to share it. And he's so uncomfortable with that, okay? What he needs to do, he needs to be able to say, have a separate briefing. And let me just for the medical thing here, this is it. Because what he's doing is that he's diluting his punch, as it were, on that podium all of the time. That's atypical of him. What he does is he goes in for the wallop and he gets his message out here. Going through these briefings, which I guess right now they're not holding them on a daily basis, that diluted his brand. And I think that was a strategic mistake on his part. He has to show he's engaged, but he is his own man. And he allowed the media to look for the differences, and he tried to push the differences and shine light on them. That's why this Fauci character, he's their favorite, not because they like him or do anything. It's just that he's a foil within the administration, and it's apparent too. And I think that was a strategic failure in messaging.
Well, can I just say something about this? One of Donald Trump's weaknesses as president is because he's inexperienced. and because he hasn't worked in Washington before he became president, he is far too awed by experts. So that's why he was surrounding himself with military officers at one point, and it didn't turn out well. And he goes for people who he's told are experts, and he ends up with people like John Bolton, who have their own hideous agendas. What he needs to understand is that experts like Dr. Fauci are not there to attend press conferences or to run round TV channels and studios and to talk for the president. Experts are there to advise him. He is the president. He should be making the decisions. He should be holding the press conferences, not sharing the limelight with someone like Fauci. That is a major error, and he needs to get past that.
Other presidents could do that. Trump can't.
No, it's not his style. It's not his style. He needs to put the experts in their place. That doesn't mean not listening to them or not paying attention to their advice, but he is the person who makes the decisions, and he is the chief executive of the United States. He listens to what they say, but the decisions must be his, and he's the person who should be going out and explaining what he's going to do to the American people. When he does that in his own very unorthodox and unconventional way, I think he does it very well, actually. He talks a language that people understand. Exactly, his people understand. If he sits alongside Fauci, well, Fauci, of course, has all the jargon and all the language and all the demeanor that experts have, and that will inevitably make Trump look lesser than as president he should be. So he needs to remember what the role of an expert is.
Listening to you guys, and to wrap it up and get to the super chats. Nigel, by the way, if you sent a super chat, I don't see it on the list, so just shoot your message in the stream, by the way. But listening to you guys and going back, Peter, to your Michigan long guns, and I want to relate it to a tweet that Elon Musk said, a one-word tweet where Elon Musk said freedom. And he said the shares of Tesla, dropping by God knows how many billions. But, I think the message is summed up in that word freedom. And listening to the long guns and what they were actually asking for, with the message that they wanted to convey is, we want our life back. We want our freedoms back. And listening to what you guys are saying about Trump and how he needs to take control of the narrative again, that's what his message should be. Fauci, all you guys, do your own press conferences. I'm pushing you guys to a box, and I'm taking control now. I'm going to take control of the narrative, and I'm going to talk about the freedom of the U.S. again and getting back out there. That's what his message needs to be, getting in control of things again. That's what the long guns in Michigan wanted. That's what Elon Musk was tweeting about. That should be Trump's message.
Well,
getting things back in control.
Well, a president is a figure of authority. He has to convey the impression that he is actually in charge. If a president is simply there and has events happen to him and is not in control, exactly like Jimmy Carter, then of course people lose confidence. And it's a president who is able to come along and take strong action and give strong policies who people turn to. I mean, the great example, the two great examples, I mean, very different people. But I mean, FDR, comes along, talks to the American people in the middle of the great economic crisis, and then he improvises relentlessly. He has no plan, but he knows how to improvise, and he does this all the time. And he gives the sense that he's back in control. And people responded to this. And I have to say this, Reagan, whatever else you think of Reagan, I've learned lots about Reagan in recent years. But again, he gave the impression, especially in his first 6 years, he was very much in charge, that he was the man who people could look to, and he would be there to take charge, to make the decisions. He was the president. You could agree with him, you could disagree with him, but there was no doubt who was in charge.
That's why we get the phrase "the great communicator."
The great communicator.
Exactly. That was a good reason, because he
Trump has those qualities, in my opinion. I mean, he does it in a very unorthodox and unusual way, because he's not from, as I said, within the political elite. But he does know how to communicate to the American people. He does know how to relate to them. I suspect, by the way, Peter and Alex, that you're probably right, that he's also somebody who feeds off the energy of his supporters. And the fact that he's not able to speak to them directly in rallies, that disorientates them, because it means that he doesn't have the pulse that he needs to be able to do that. And that is clearly a problem. But I come back to what I said. He's got everything to play for. He's got an incredibly weak.
It's no coincidence. It's no coincidence. It's the blue states that want to keep the lockdown. It's no coincidence.
Well, he's got a very weak candidate against him. I mean, I think Biden, is almost hiding in his house in Delaware. He's got all these allegations swirling around him. We talked about the sex allegations. There's also financial corruption. There's, name it, what kind of corruption. He's also been engineered into the position by the DNC. He's also probably got cognitive issues. So you're a weak candidate, a discredited and unpopular Democratic Party establishment. He has everything to play for, but he needs to be a bit more, well, he needs to be a lot more himself. He needs the self-confidence and the energy and the drive, which he has shown in the past that he has.
And he has the advantage of this failed, fake, fraudulent Democratic primary, because Joe was never challenged.
Exactly.
His message is not refined. He should have had to deal with the credit card companies, with Tara Reid, China. See, if you had a real primary with real candidates, he would have gotten over those things or would have a position on it. All of these things are dangling right now. Dangling.
Yes.
I mean, this is a gift on a silver platter for the Trump campaign, because he hasn't been properly vetted by his own party, and the media, because they're clueless and they're ideologically possessed, won't do that job. They should. It's part of what being a journalist is. So, I mean, they're doing this disabled elderly man a huge disservice, because he's being coddled like an infant. And then they're gonna have to open up the door, as it were, and the mean world outside is gonna invade his environment. And he's not up to it. No. He's not prepared. I mean, that interview with Mika Brzezinski, I mean, did you see him like biting his lip and his eyes going around? Like it's like he just suddenly doesn't know where that look of like, what am I doing here? Okay. And this kind of goes in phases. I'm not a doctor, okay? I've been around elderly people all of my life. My mother was a nurse in a convalescent hospital. I used to go there every single day to pick her up from work. So I know what elderly people, how they behave, okay? And the terrible disabilities that they experience, okay? I'm not saying that this is what's happening to Joe. All I can say is see his behavior here. The Democratic Party is doing themselves such a disservice by putting someone up that is completely unvetted. And even if they did vet him, he isn't capable physically and mentally to take on this campaign. Donald Trump is one thing. When you let him loose, he goes full animal and he goes for victory. He doesn't want anything strategic, tactical. He goes for the win, okay? And let me just finish out my tie right here. They say, what about, Trump did terrible in the debates with Hillary? No, it's all counterintuitive. And I think maybe Joe Biden's campaign is trying to do this, is that nobody had any expectations for Donald Trump. I mean, getting through the debate means he did okay, all right? It was low, Boris Johnson does a little bit of this too, okay? But Trump is a cognizant person. He didn't become a billionaire for nothing, okay? He is a smart guy, okay? He's not intellectual in the way the East Coast and the West Coast are. Fine, I don't like those people either. But Joe Biden doesn't have the facilities. So, you can go into a debate and he gets slaughtered. It's not because of low expectations, because he's been in politics for almost 5 decades. Donald Trump had been in politics for a few months. And so if they think that low expectation strategy is going to work for them, they're foolish.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's get to our super chats. Great discussion. Let's see what we have on our super chats here to end out this live stream. From Andrew Cole, £2 super chat. Get the ball rolling. Thank you, Andrew, for that super chat. From Valhalla Bright Hall, Seminole Strategics is a new member to the Duran community. Welcome, Valhalla. Thank you for joining the Duran community. Valley S, $20 super chat. Thank you, Valley, for that super chat. Valley S, as always, we really, really appreciate it. From Brando Commando, $2 super chat. All prices are up. Yeah, they're up. They go a little down. They go a little up. Yeah, eventually it'll go up.
Oh, they'll shoot up. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, they will eventually. I mean,
Yeah, they will eventually.
Yeah.
Let's see. From Atnosens, RON25. How high is the risk the world slides into a retaliatory war against China, initially orchestrated and openly led by the US?
I think it's most unlikely that we're going to have an outright war. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, neither the US nor China will want to go down that route. And I'm sure they'll pull back and not have it. But a Cold War between the US and China, in other words, a prolonged period of very great hostility, that I think is now baked in the cake. I think we have it. I think we're there. I don't think we're going to see any change to that. So a hot war, no. A cold war, yes.
Yeah. From Toilet Sauce, €5 super chat. Are the reports true that the Kremlin is getting fed up with Assad? Or are those reports designed to rile up the Syrians against the Russians? What do you guys think of those?
I've been hearing those reports about how the Kremlin is fed up with Assad since the moment when the Russian military first went into Syria, and even before. They are complete nonsense, in my opinion. They are not nonsense. They are deliberate disinformation. There's always been attempts to try and play off Assad and the Russians off against each other. My own sense of this is the exact diametric opposite. I think when the Russians went into Syria in a big way in 2015, they were very open to the idea at that time of sorting out some kind of inclusive government, which would include Assad perhaps, or his supporters and all sorts of other people. And I think when they went into Syria, they very, very quickly and rapidly realized that Assad is the only game in town. And for that, I think, is the view that they have had now for a long time. And I don't see any sign or indication that that has changed.
Yeah, I mean, the tension is that Assad would like to see Idlib and other areas cleaned up and faster. I mean, the difference is timeline, okay? Yeah. It's not the end goal. It's how we get there, when we get there. There is that frustration. I mean, look, his country's being occupied by foreign powers, okay? And there are international known terrorists there. I mean, yeah, this is going on for a long time. I can understand the impatience, but it's really Russian air power that makes all the difference right there. And so you can't trifle with that. So it's about timelines. And of course, all this gross fake news stuff that is constantly being churned out. It's like, that article I came across, America wants the world to lead on the pandemic. No, it's not true. There's no evidence of that at all. No, I mean, these ridiculous titles. I mean, no, that's not the case. As a matter of fact, ignoring the United States has been the norm for so many other countries, because as we've said on this program, you have to take care of your own first. I mean, it actually was a victory for those that are more concerned with sovereignty, okay? So, I mean, these ridiculous one-liners, these titles, it has nothing to do with reality. It's just like, Putin and Assad at loggerheads, okay? No, it's just propaganda.
All right, from Vladimir Sirma, €10 super chat. Guys, did you watch Michael Moore's Planet of the Humans regarding green energy?
Yeah, no, I haven't watched it, but I'm certainly intend to. It's most be very interested to watch it, actually.
It's fascinating film. I mean, I want to know what's going on there, because it isn't a Michael Moore film, okay? He's the executive producer, but he's throwing his name behind it to get the exposure. The film itself, from a Michael Moore production value, it's not. Michael Moore is a good filmmaker, okay? I give him that, okay? But it's not as slick. And but I was really quite surprised, and this film has really caused a lot of discussion within the environmental movement, because these biofuels, it's just complete fraud, okay? It's just big business, big financial interests that have taken gone green. Well, they haven't gone green at all. Okay, but we believe in biofuels and all that. No, but that's not going green. You need all of this carbon energy to make this bio stuff actually work. Okay, I'm not throwing stones on people that have those ideas. I obviously am not for the Green New Deal, which of course, this is where the criticism comes, because this is a shot over the bow for the new Green Deal people. They're really angry about it. But Michael Moore actually pretty level-headed about all of this. I mean, if he signed off on it, which obviously he did because he put his name on it, even though it's not his film. But it's really eye-opening, and it confirmed a lot of my suspicions as well. Okay, about solar. I don't know. I'm a child of the first what was it? What was the first environmental green? What is it? Field Day? Yeah. Was it called Field Day or Ground? What was it?
So I know what you
know what I mean.
It was
the first time in the 70s. Okay, when, and everybody was like, no,
Gaia or something like that.
It's something like, and it's like, we love trees, okay? But I mean, part of this, the environmental movement is that we can get away from carbon by destroying trees. Well, I'm not an environmentalist, but I like trees, actually. I think the more the better, all right? So, I mean, the criticism is that the Michael Moore and his cohorts they're not up to date with the new technologies. Okay, I've heard that before too. Look, I'm not going to weigh in one way or another because I'm not an expert in this area. But the fact that you see internal debate within the green movement, I think is healthy. I think it's really good. And and I always get a kick out of how people react to it. I mean, they get triggered and their eyes pop out of their head, and they lose all the blood in their head and they go turn white. I mean, and I see something like that happen to someone, that means we need a debate. We need a debate about this, okay? So I give a tepid hat tip to Michael Moore in supporting this. It's part of the conversation. We need it.
I will certainly watch this film, and with great interest. I mean, it's a subject which is outside my comfort zone. I'm not somebody who finds it very easy to discuss the climate issue because I don't really understand it very well. But I don't like the incredibly dogmatic way in which some people talk about it. And if I learn something from watching this film, I will consider it a plus and something that I would devote time to. So definitely I will watch this film, and I will watch it with great interest and with an open mind.
Well, essentially the bottom line is that what most people understand is the green movement is a fraud. I just gave you the synopsis.
Oh, there you go. Well, what I will say about it is that an awful lot of it has become very corporate in itself. It pretends to be anti-corporate, but it seems to me that a lot of it is just another form of big business. And you see that in Britain, of course. I'm sure you see it in the US. In Germany, where, of course, the Greens are very, very much part of the political system. And by the way, and in fact, which isn't widely understood, an implicit part of the Merkel coalition, because the way the German parliamentary system works is that it's the role that the Greens have a very important role in the upper house of the German parliament. So Merkel needs to be on good terms with the Greens to get legislation through. So they are very, very much part of the institutional system in Germany. And you see what a huge corporate presence they are there. Sometimes for the good, but not always. And
they're the most fanatical, they're the worst Russophobes.
Absolutely, well, indeed, well, absolutely they are. Which, of course, is so strange when you remember the original Greens, like Petra Kelly and General Bastian in the 1980s. But that's another world of Greens. The Greens that we have now, corporate, powerful, established, rich, conservative in their own kind of way, in the sense that they're part of the political system and the political elite, liberal as well, of course. Perhaps not all they do, some of the things they do, I would probably support. But, let's be very clear about what they are. not just in Germany, I suspect, but in other places.
Alex,
So I watched the program with interest.
Does your wife cut your hair?
Yes.
You're so lucky. Got good haircut. Tell her my compliments.
Absolutely. I will certainly pass that on. Yes.
Okay. From Le Chat, €5 super chat. Tara Reid and Biden. What about Judy Mikovits and what Fauci did to her life? There's something very wrong about this COVID-19 affair.
I mean, I don't know about this. I'm not going to comment about this. I mean, all I will say about Fauci, I mean, is what I've said already. I don't know about his personal life. I don't know about allegations which may have been made about him, but he is not the president of the United States. He's not the person who makes the decisions. He is being given far too much prominence. He should be put back in his correct place as an expert advising the president. That's his job. That's his role. He's not there to promote his own, to take decisions, and he's certainly not there to promote other people's agendas. And I think this is an issue, by the way, where I understand that he has particular views on the importance of vaccines and all those things, which may be entirely valid views, but he is not there to make the decisions about them. And that's, I think, the thing I would say.
We'll take a look at the because I've gotten a lot of links and
okay.
Well, that story, so we'll take a look at it for sure.
I would be very interested. And can I come back to what I said before, which is that, of course, what applies to one person should apply to another. If you really believe in hounding Brett Kavanaugh in the way that they did, which I didn't, by the way, if you believe that, then of course you should apply that same principle to everyone else, to Biden, to Fauci, to everyone. And if it's otherwise, you're not being honest with yourself and you're not being honest with other people.
All right. From GEC 1111112, a $20 super chat. I'm seeing a scary similarity in the gaslighting from early communist era to what's been happening in the West over the last few years. Now snitching on others in community, never ending invisible enemy, a virus, and disarming the population.
Where? Invasion of the body snatchers all over.
All over again. Well, I mean,
it's true. It's true. That's one of the greatest political films ever made because it preys upon your knowing what you don't know, preying upon what could be out there. It preys upon your most primitive prejudices. It's one of the greatest films ever made, okay? And it resonates all through time, and it resonates now.
Yeah, it's a good film.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Watch it.
It's a very good film, and the snitching part is
the culture,
awful. I hate what they're doing there.
The culture of informers is a terrible one, and it's of course this situation is made for them. It's a golden age of informers, and you have it in every country. It's going on all the time, and I understand that the police are now inundated with all sorts of people who are coming on and informing and snitching on all sorts of.
They're letting criminals out of jail at the same time. Good.
Yeah. So I mean, inform. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, from Flying Boar, $5 super chat. Trump should start by firing Pompeo and stay away from Iran.
True, I agree. I certainly.
No comment.
No comment. I mean, certainly he should fire Pompeo. That absolutely no question about it.
That's
fire Ray. He should fire all kinds of other people.
That's coming if you want a second term.
I think so. I think so too. I think that regardless of who wins in November, Pompeo is not going to be there beyond it.
Oh no!
I predict Trump will win in November. I mean, I may be wrong.
No. I mean, Pompeo is he's a 2024 guy all over the place. Yeah. That's why he's staying on the Secretary of State. Okay, and he's probably really irked that the pandemic has taken him out of the spotlight because that's what he was supposed to do is build his brand. Okay, and he's had a hard time. That's why he's going more and more extremes. I mean, the origins of the virus, he was on Fox. He contradicted himself one sentence after another. He made a complete buffoon out of himself, which is a par for the course for him because he is a buffoon, okay? Yes. So, but he's all about, I mean, he's looking at that Senate seat in Kansas, I think it is. And of course, he's looking, he's just building up his CV, okay? Right. And he's a 2024 guy, all right? And it's really interesting. You don't see him on the same podium with Trump, okay? Because Trump probably sees him as a liability, and Pompeo probably sees Trump as a liability. So it's kind of mutual. Hey, it's only 6 more months, okay? And Pompeo will, he'll go back to lie, cheat, and steal somewhere else, as he previously said.
All right, from Donnie Chappelle, $25 super chat. Great discussion today. Thank you, Donnie, very, very much for that super chat. And from David Denstag, $20 super chat. No comment about the oldest wars, Afghanistan, government in crisis, Saudis attacking the US with oil while we have a fleet defending them and the costs are into the trillions. End the wars to pay for reconstruction, a possibility.
Well, I mean, lots of very good points made there by that, in that question. I mean, the war in Afghanistan, gone on and on and on and on, long past its whatever sense or logic it had. I hope and do believe that it is finally winding down in terms of what of the US involvement. I really do.
My sense is, my gut feeling is right now is that Trump is using the pandemic as a cover to start withdrawing from the Middle East.
Yes, I agree with that. Actually.
I see that. I feel that happening right now. Okay, I mean, it can't be about oil anymore. I mean, nobody even wants it. Okay,
I know.
I mean, why in the world are you going to stay in Syria to protect the oil? I mean, nobody wants it now. Okay, I mean, there's a certain logic that's kicking in here. The thing is that it's not because these are people of virtue and intelligence, because they're not virtuous and they have no intelligence, they have no sense of morality. Yes. Okay? These people are cogs in the machine that they created of this neoliberal order, okay? And it's all about keeping defense budgets high, and they've found the answer. Okay, so they're going to leave the backwater of the Middle East, which it is a strategic backwater, and there's no reason in the world to be wasting so many resources and lives there for a very long time, if ever. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the Carter Doctrine. Well, the Carter Doctrine has been completely, is in complete tatters. It got nothing that it projected to get. It's a fantastic article, the American Conservative. Type in Carter Doctrine, excellent article, really good read, okay? Yeah. So I see there's a pullback here, okay? And maybe Trump is using this as a moment to start, because he did run on it, okay? I mean, he wants to be able to pull that envelope out of his arm and say, see, I said this, I've done it, particularly with Afghanistan. Iraq is a lot more complicated, but we do see also the Saudis repositioning MBS. I think he sees that he has created an existential threat to himself within his own kingdom and the international system. And I have to believe that there are entreaties being made in Iraq and in Iran, okay? Because we saw that before the murder of Soleimani. So I think that's taking on a life of its own. The United States is just, it has its attention elsewhere, okay? Yes. And the thing is that to keep those defense budgets bloated, you're gonna have to turn to China. Okay, that's the only way to do it. Okay, Russia isn't enough. Okay, it has to be China. The real interesting thing about that is that China can defend itself extremely well on many different levels. Okay, Russia does not threaten the United States or any European country at all. There's no evidence of that at all. No. And so that creates a very interesting opening for people like Macron that want to have a second thought, because if the United States is going to start limiting resources to NATO as we move forward, and it does have anything to do with who's in office or what party, I think that's a trend there. It could give a breathing space for the European Union to actually redefine itself and not being as opposed to Russia, which is absolutely absurd. Okay, but maybe in partnership with Russia, now that might be a winner. Not for a while, and it's a generational dead cause with America, but not with Europe.
I just wanted to say, and I think, and I agree with, by the way, your analysis, Peter. I would just say with Saudi Arabia, I think that our viewer, the questioner, has made an astute point about the Saudi attack, or as it's perceived in the United States, on oil. I think that Saudi Arabia has angered an awful lot of people in the United States over the last few months. And I think that may have long-term consequences. I think that we've discussed this several times on the Duran, but I think a lot of people who wanted to believe in Saudi Arabia as a friend of the United States have seen that Saudi Arabia can behave in radically unfriendly ways.
Yemen, Khashoggi, now the oil crash.
Now the
okay,
oil crash.
what kind of ally is that, really?
Okay, from Brando Commando, $5 super chat. Netflix execs are talking about buying CBS Viacom, and Apple execs have talked about buying Disney. Do you think we will see a big consolidation of media?
Huge consolidation of media. It's been going on now for decades. And I mean, I can remember a situation in the 70s, Peter can too, when we had very decentralized and free media, lots of newspapers in small towns and all over the United States and in Britain. And we had, and all of these are, self-supporting, and it's become incredibly concentrated. Media ownership has become incredibly controlled and incredibly corporate, and we're going to see that accelerate, and that makes what we do here at the Duran even more important, because we are not part of that world in any way, and that's why we have an awful lot of the pressure from them that we do. But there will be more concentration of that, be under no doubt.
The consolidation that's going to happen in the wake of this pandemic is going to be, it will blow your mind.
Absolutely.
It really will blow your mind.
Absolutely.
I would rephrase that question, actually, Brando, and I would say it's not a consolidation of media. I think you're seeing big tech taking over media.
Yeah,
that's what's going to happen. So you're going to have Apple take over media. You're going to have Netflix take over media, and you're going to have Google become media. Facebook is already a news publisher.
Yes.
It's not a social network. It's a news publisher. YouTube is going to become another type of Netflix with original content. What you see right now with independent creators and, just small news outfits or small, creative shops that are doing their own gig is going to be over and done within two, 3 years. YouTube is going full into YouTube Red and paid subscriptions and premium content. So big tech is becoming media. It's just swallowing it up.
I mean, bear in mind, Amazon already owns. They already own the
and
Washington
Amazon.
Post.
Well, they own the distribution. That's why the big tech owns the distribution. So it's a
Exactly.
natural progression. The minute you own the distribution,
Yes.
you're just going to become the information. It's the natural progression.
Absolutely.
So Apple will be a media company. Netflix,
Of course.
Google, all of them. Facebook already is.
Yes.
All right. From Star Trooper, a $5 super chat. How come we never found out what Boris Johnson was treated with when he had CV?
Very good question. Excellent question.
I have to get some coffee. Let me curious answer that.
we hear lots of interesting stories. The fact that he was apparently given a lot of oxygen, that he was almost put on a ventilator. Apparently the decision was made at the last moment that he wouldn't be. But you're quite right, there's an extraordinary amount of uncertainty and lack of clarity as to exactly the nature of the treatment he did receive. Now, there are lots of theories about this. One theory is that, of course, he was very seriously ill, and that they don't want to admit to the fact that he was more ill than he actually was. The other theory is the diametric opposite, that he wasn't really ill at all, or not very much. I don't know what the truth is, and I'm not going to speculate about it. But what I will say is this: the health of the Prime Minister of Great Britain should be a matter of public knowledge. I think we should be provided with all the information. We should know exactly what happened to him, as we should be provided with the information about the health risks of any leader who falls ill in the same way. That's all I'm going to say about him.
All right. From William Jones. Biden won't run. He's a prop. He'll be sadly replaced with the designated party hack. Wellstone Memorial stunt plus a surprise NPC, and economic ruin is equal to a win. Peter, did you catch that?
Yep, I did.
Okay.
I think everything is in flux right now. I think everything is in flux. Having said that, I have to absolutely believe that they're thinking of their options right now. I think they will. Okay. I mean, this Tara Reid thing, maybe nothing happened. We don't know. But the way it's being handled is it stays on the front page. It didn't have to be this way. It could have been easily resolved, okay, if nothing happened. But, never underestimate the deviousness of the DNC. Never underestimate them. On one side, it'd be very, very difficult to replace. Well, he doesn't have a plurality of delegates. Okay. Okay. So, I mean, he doesn't have a plurality. Okay. And then what you do is exceptional search during the pandemic and lockdown, the same thing. They just pour it all the time. And they're going to try to, I mean, they had a fraudulent primary. Why can't they have a fraudulent nomination process? I mean, they're going to wait for Bernie. I mean, this is fraud is their middle name. Okay. So don't be surprised. Okay. The thing is, the perception. Then why did you back Biden in the first place if you want to move away? See, there are downsides to doing this, okay? They're really good at framing these false narratives here. But I think that Alex Christoforous said it from the very beginning. This is a stalking horse for Hillary. It's not impossible. I think unlikely, but it's not impossible. Michelle Obama has been mentioned. I think that's extremely unlikely. She definitely doesn't want. I mean, why? We live in a beautiful house in Martha's Vineyard. Why do you want to go through this? Okay, why? All right. So, it's good. The thing is that what I think could happen. Here's one scenario: they choose a vice president, and then all the big to do about the woman that's going to be Joe's vice president, and then they might finagle and say, but maybe we flip this, okay? Where Joe can, give his experience. He's been vice president before. He could be the guiding hand. It's not impossible that they're going to wait for the anointment of the VP and then flip the ticket. Okay, it's not impossible. It's one of many scenarios, but I think it's very interesting. And you're going to get this wokeism and diversity nonsense, and they're going to really drive that. Okay, and that way. They kind of solve multiple problems at the same time. You don't completely, get rid of the guy. And I don't think Joe will really care. Okay, we'll even call your office the Oval Office if you want, Joe. It's all right. Okay, there's lots of Jell-O with pineapple chunks. Everything will be fine. So what the thing is that I think it's the vice presidential pick that can really tell us where it could go.
There was a very interesting article, Peter, which was in The Hill, which is pretty mainstream, in which for the first time, they were floating in The Hill the idea that Hillary would become Joe Biden's vice presidential pick, and then would step into his shoes after he stepped down. I'm not saying that's going to happen, and it wasn't predicting that it would.
You know what I'm thinking, but I'm not going to say it. Okay. Yeah. You want to get that close to Hillary Clinton, really? I didn't say anything, but everyone knows what I'm thinking.
Yeah, she won't have to do anything for Biden's case anyway. From floating for five. Go. Yeah. Oh boy. Update on Venezuela, the recent attempted attack from mercenaries.
This is so weird. I mean, it's so bizarre. I mean, firstly, we hear the story from Venezuela that they're being invaded and that they've repelled an invasion, and then it turns out that it's some way true, and we don't really know because it all looks as if it was all done in some kind of I don't know how to describe it. Bay of Pigs type way, but a kind of farcical Bay of Pigs type way. I mean, it's very, very weird. I wonder whether this is something to do with Pompeo's ideas. I mean, that's all I can think of. But anyway, whatever. I mean, Maduro's clearly survived and probably come out stronger. So it looks an utterly harebrained scheme by someone. But there we go.
They used to be able to do. They used to be a lot more slick.
Oh, yeah.
They used to be more like a Bourne film. Okay, but now it's just like Laurel and Hardy. I mean, what has happened to these people? Okay, I mean, they get to wannabe Rambo guy. Okay, and it screws up every single step of the way. Again, there's a really good article at the American Conservative. I think it's a lead article, or at least when I last checked. And so it's just kind of this farcical circus-like scenario that never had a chance of working in the first place. Okay, I mean, these people, they have so much power, and this is the nonsense that they do. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
From Brando Commando, $5 super chat. It's funny how the liberals called Trump a fascist the past 2 years, and then he gave their governors more power, and now we're seeing their true colors.
The threat is coming from the left. It is not coming from the right. You know, it's and this, and again, we go back to those images of the long guns. Okay, this is what the liberal media, how they want to frame that story. They framed it completely wrong. Okay, but they're the ones that are drowning out freedom of speech, assembly, pushing religion out of the public square, censorship, surveillance. It's coming from them. They cheer it on. Okay, that's what I'm worried about, from that trajectory, not from the right.
Exactly.
I mean,
whatever they accuse you of, they're the ones.
Well, I've never bought into the story of Donald Trump being any kind of fascist.
Oh.
I mean, that was always a rhetorical, a very, very ugly rhetorical smear. And I'm astonished. I still find it astonishing that so many people were taken in by that nonsense. What we see, not just in the governor's mansions, what we see happen to Michael Flynn, that is fascism. Yeah. That's how fascist secret police organizations function.
If you take anything from this podcast, you just heard it right there.
Right. All right. Excellent point from Iris and Amarado. Great to see you all three together. Thank you for that super chat. And another super chat from Iris as well, a $3 one with a thumbs up. Thank you very much, Iris, for those two super chats. From Edward Turner, $50 super chat. Peter, is it true what we hear on Australian Sky News that Putin is losing popularity due to his handling of the virus?
I see no indication of that whatsoever. Usually in this realm, it would be the government that's going to be criticized. And so it'll be the prime minister. I've been in lockdown. I stay in contact with my friends on a regular basis. No one's really delved into that area there. Having said that, today is the 5th as we speak right now, and the government is supposed to present to Putin its exit strategy from the pandemic. Now, as people have been following, and I know Alexander Mikiris is following it very closely, there's anything but flattening the curve here. Okay, it's actually quite bad. So I have to wonder if this plan that's being presented today, if it's going to be presented at all, I'll check as soon as we finish here. What is the prognosis now? Earlier it was the 11th would start the end of lockdown. I have a hard time believing it's going to happen, at least in Moscow. Okay, Russia is such a vast country. There are plenty of places that can open up where there's, it hasn't been scathed at all or in any meaningful way. But Moscow is a really different kettle of fish. I would not be surprised, and this is my gut feeling, my opinion, that we're looking for at least to the end of May, at the very least. Okay, so but as far as drop in Putin's popularity, you hear that all of the time. Number one, no one blames the pandemic on him. Okay. Number two, has the government made mistakes? All governments have made mistakes in dealing with this. Okay. But I don't hear any grumbling, or it's the usual suspects, okay, that will just, like Trump haters, okay, they just find it something to hate about, okay, so I'll keep everybody informed in that, but I don't see any material difference going on here on the ground.
Okay, I'll just add to that excellent summary, which I'm talking that the opinion polls I have seen suggest that Putin's popularity has actually increased during the period of the pandemic. Moscow is in severe lockdown, and the pandemic in Russia is very, very heavily concentrated in Moscow. Moscow is going to be in lockdown much longer than other places in Russia are. So, one gets a lot of the perception of events in Russia from what goes on in Moscow. But Moscow accounts for something like 50 to 60% of cases. So it's completely unrepresentative of what the mood is. And I think there will be openings up of the economy, but not in Moscow. I'm afraid I agree with Peter. Moscow, it looks like the end of May at the earliest.
Yeah, okay. They had a chance to flatten the curve, and they missed that opportunity.
They did. There's a lot. Go on.
So my opinion is that people that were coming back from Europe primarily, they were told to self-quarantine for 2 weeks.
They didn't
do it.
They didn't do it. Well, that's exactly what happened. And the government can be validly criticized because, of course, they didn't control these people in the way perhaps that they might have done. But perhaps they couldn't. But they gave the impression that they were controlling them. when it turns out that
we were very optimistic on our podcast. We were
Absolutely.
I remember it
Absolutely.
very, very clearly because the numbers weren't there, the number increases weren't there, the casualty wasn't there, and then it all unraveled.
Unraveled, exactly.
Okay, Humanity, new member to the Duran community. Welcome, Humanity, to the Duran community. And everyone, you can see the join button underneath our video for you to join the community. So click on that and join. That'll really help us out a lot. And from Andre, a $2 super chat. Hi from Quebec. Hello, Andre. Welcome to everyone from Quebec. And thank you for that super chat. From Atnosens, RON25 super chat. Are your predictions of future developments based on the re-election of Trump? I believe this time really matters who wins in November.
I think it matters a huge amount who wins in November. I mean, I was talking, we've been talking about Flynn, we've been talking about Russiagate, we've been talking about all these investigations into what happened. Be absolutely in no doubt, if a Democrat wins in November, all those investigations end. All these investigations into the origins of Russiagate end. You will get more investigations, but they will continue to be highly politicized investigations of Trump and his
And they won't include Biden, his son.
No, exactly. So, and again, if you care about the United States and about the constitutional system of government of the United States, you should vote for Donald Trump, because getting those investigations, those real investigations that are now underway, that for me is the overriding priority. I've said this on previous programs. I'm going to say it again. I am not an American citizen. I don't have a vote in the US election. If I did, I would without any hesitation vote for Trump simply on that one issue. There may be other reasons you could vote for him also, but that issue for me, seeing this thing resolved properly, that is so important that's why I would vote for him, and that's sufficient reason by itself.
Okay, from Humanities, $2 super chat. Libya International Criminal Court now. Comments?
Right. Well, I haven't heard this. I mean, the International Criminal Court, I would not, is an institution which I have grave doubts about and skepticism about. I'm not sure who, if anybody's being indicted or charged by the International Criminal Court. And if we could have a bit more clarity, I would comment on it. The worst crime that was committed against Libya is not by Libyans against each other. It is by the Western powers that violated UN resolutions, manipulated those resolutions, and then went on to violate them and carried out a war of aggression against Libya in 2011, which destroyed the country. And those people who were involved, of whom Hillary Clinton is the prime architect, those people are the people who deserve to be indicted.
Okay, from Andre, $10 super chat. Can you clear up your statement that Trump did not say to drink Clorox? I was shocked. This is not such a crazy idea. Bronchial lavage gamma knife.
Well, he didn't say drink Clorox, okay?
Or inject.
No, but he was talking about the body has to be disinfected,
exactly,
okay? And he said
exactly.
it in a clumsy way, okay? In a clumsy way.
Yeah.
And he shouldn't have said it, okay? But he didn't say drink Clorox, okay? No. Okay. And the guy that drank the aquarium chemicals, apparently that story is a lot deeper. It could have been a domestic violence issue right there that politicized, okay? So, the media, they're so lazy and they're so full of themselves, they never follow up on anything. So, no, he didn't say drink Clorox, okay? He just didn't.
No, he didn't. I mean, you only have to listen to that, to what he actually said, and you can see that was not what he said. I mean, he mangles his words sometimes, he meanders, he's all over the place. I mean, it's one of the things, I think, which makes him come across as very human. And it's one of the reasons why people do actually like him and vote for him.
Two different people can look at it and come with
Exactly. He's not one of these people who's very careful in picking his words. That's not Trump's style. But what then happens is you have these.
It came from China. Very clear.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, what you then do is you get all these media people who are there, and they're always waiting for him to say something like that, and they turn around and they twist what he said, and they inject meanings into it which were not there, and then they make that a huge story, and they run with it for day after day after week, and of course, beyond a certain point, it acquires a kind of life on its own. So people repeat what they think Trump said, not because they heard him say it, but because they read it in the New York Times or they've heard it on MSNBC. That's the way this works. And we've got to be very, very clear about this and understand very well that this is a disinformation exercise.
Okay, from Iris, $5 super chat. USA mercenaries failed again in Venezuela. Please update it. Next program. USA is silenced about
Well,
it.
I think we should. I mean, it's certainly an extraordinary story. You know, there's a book by a British writer called Frederick Forsyth, which is called The Dogs of War, in which a group of mercenaries go off to West Africa and single-handedly overthrow the government there. It seems to me somebody in Washington has been reading. It's a great book, but somebody in Washington seems to have been basing their policy on
Wild imagination.
Wild imagination, exactly.
We saw it in a movie,
exactly. Find out exactly what happened. It's very weird story, and something odd is going on.
Speaking of films, watch Ice Station Zebra. That's such a great film.
It is a good film. I agree.
Okay. From John Huber, $2 super chat. Boris was treated with lots of gin and tonic.
Oh, I'm sure. I know the man who makes his gin. I'm not saying more.
All right. From Andre, $2 super chat. Thank you very much, Andre, for that super chat. We really appreciate it. From Brando Commando, $2 super chat. Take some more of my Trump bucks. Thank you very much, Brando, for those Trump bucks. We appreciate it. And from David Dinstag, $5 super chat. Me equal to Giselle.org. Wish you all the best. Wish we could talk. Yes, Giselle.org. You write great articles for the Duran.com. Thank you very much for those articles. And thank you for that super chat. That is it, guys. Those are all our super chats. Thank you to Spartan Warrior Queen for your moderation. We really, really appreciate it. You did a great job. Thank you very, 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 very much, Spartan Warrior Queen. And to everyone that donated to us with the super chats and your questions, thank you very much. To everyone that joined the Duran community, thank you very much for that as well. Peter, what do you have going on?
We're doing tomorrow. I'm doing the 75th anniversary of the end of the Second World War in Europe, the end of the scourge of fascism, which the West wants to forget. And I have two marvelous guests on tomorrow. I'm very excited about it. I'm very happy to change the topic. I'm a bit tired of the pandemic. There's other things going on, so I'll keep an eye on that. And mostly the economic side of it, not the politics of it. So the 75th anniversary of the end of fascism in Europe, and I think it's so important to remember that. So that's on the agenda for tomorrow. It'll be on air on Friday.
All right. Humanity says there are problems in the Security Council because people are not complying with international law. This is in regards to Libya. I really look forward to the Duran's dissection of these proceedings. Free Libya, no war. Free Assange. Thank you very much. Nigel, your super chat, if you want to put your super chat in there because you say it got lost, just type it into the chat right now and we'll get to it very quickly. Nigel, if you can do that, we'll appreciate it. And thank you very much for that super chat. That's to Nigel in the chat. So just type it in there. Alexander, what do you have going on this week?
Well, obviously, we follow the pandemic, but there's an awful lot going on in the Julian Assange case, which I obviously need to keep an eye on because I know a lot of the people who are involved in it now, and we exchange ideas and thoughts, and we now have a proper trial looming on the horizon. So lots going on there, and.
Will it be a proper trial? I know you British like to say that proper trial, a proper cup of tea, a proper dog, but will it be a proper trial?
In a word, no. But that's something we need to work. That's something people need to think about. And of course, bear in mind, Peter, that it's always been obvious to me that this case was going to be decided not at the trial itself, but at the next stage, which is the appeal stage. when we go to completely different sets of judges and entirely different sorts of people. But there's an awful lot being going on there, and that's that I'm afraid more than I can actually talk about because there are confidentiality issues, obviously. But that's certainly something that's going to be taking up some of my time and a lot of my attention over the next few days.
All right. Thank you, Alexander. And Nigel, I guess this is your question. I'm seeing in the live stream very, very quickly, guys, and we'll wrap it up on this question from Nigel. Lindsey Graham supports Alexander's view. POTUS shouldn't pardon Flynn. Let the case play out. That's
Yes. I'm not surprised that's what he's. I mean, of course, remember what everyone thinks about Lindsey Graham and his political views. He is also somebody with a background as a prosecutor, so he's thinking this thing through legally. I think all I would say, and the one qualification I would make, is that, of course, this can't be allowed to play out forever. You can't wait weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks for the court system and the judicial system and the FBI and the Justice Department to finally get round to the point of exonerating this man. If it looks like weeks are passing, then I come back, I would say, just pardon him. But in the meantime, I would go along with what I said. I give it a chance, not an indefinite chance, to get this thing sorted out, because clearly so much has gone wrong. I find it difficult personally to see how the Justice Department, I have little faith in the judge, how the Justice Department can continue with this prosecution. So let it play out, but don't wait forever. Get it sorted out soon.
All right. Thank you, Nigel. Okay, guys, that's it for this live stream. Thank you very much. Have a great day, everybody, wherever you are in the world.